Hi, intrepid viewers. Dr. Lena Rodriguez coming to you from tomorrow, which is Tuesday in Australia. So we're still adjusting to the new government in a good way. You know, I'm sure in 6 months I'll be whinging about what they're doing and not doing. But for now, it is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And Albanese, known as Albo, in Australia, has a great team, awesome women on his team. And already one of them, our new foreign minister, Penny Wong, has gone to the Pacific. She's secured deals with 6 countries. They've only been in 5 minutes. She's done more in this week than the previous government did in 9 years. So go Penny Wong. Right. Now, I'm just going to launch in because about the whole gun control thing and the terrible shooting. Shooting's plural, isn't it, really? 110 Americans a day. It's important for us not to let this go. If it's going to have traction, it requires every one of us to keep committed to the cause. And last week I was feeling a bit flat, going, oh, it's a hopeless thing in America, you know, take my guns off my poor dead cold fingers and all that stuff, you know, the John Wayne concept. And a woman called Shannon Watts, and she leads an organisation called Moms Demand Change. And they formed after Sandy Hook and have kept up momentum. They've had a lot of success in 21 states. So there'd be no guessing which states they were and which states they weren't. The point is, she is a very compelling speaker, and she sort of makes it really obvious and clear that this can change, must change. The majority of Americans want this to change. So people have to stop being pussy whipped, basically, by the ultra vocal minority and get on with it. It can be done. And a fiddle with red flag laws isn't going to cut it. I think nothing will matter until at least automatic and semi-automatic weapons are actually taken off the streets. Well, can it be done? That is the challenge, right? It's easy to say no, but you know what? It's got to start somewhere. And maybe if there's legal cases that cost the manufacturers billions of dollars, that money could be used to buy back weapons. Now, Australia's much smaller, obviously, but we had a massive buyback scheme within the context of Australia after our one gun massacre. New Zealand did the same. So the money could come through that avenue because they are weapons of war. There's no excuse. You don't need them to defend, you know. Well, look, that raises another issue, doesn't it? I was on Hogarth's channel the other night, and there was a troll on there, and he kept going and going. But one of the things he kept pointing out was, this is a free country. Now, I didn't want to engage with the troll online, but this is probably the biggest myth facing America, that it's a free country. I'm sorry, if children are terrified to go to school because they might be shot in the face, that is not freedom. It's the opposite of freedom. It is not freedom. And if you feel you have to be armed to defend yourself from your other citizens, where does freedom fit into that? So that the freedom to bear arms just becomes an unfinished sentence. So anyway, I'm going to look yet again at the NRA and all that. Now, I'm on a roll. Sorry, blathering on. There was a list published during the week of who gets NRA money. And on top of the list There was Mitt Romney from Utah allegedly getting $13 million. And I went, oh, isn't that terrible? Oh, how shocking. Who would have thought it? And I thought it was a bit suspicious, actually. And then sure enough, by the next day, Mitt came out and said, that is not true. Now, I read on that in a collaboration yesterday, and it seems like that is the case. He's being set up because he occasionally has a moderate vote. So I don't think it is true. But we're going to look at the momentum around parents and gun control. Parents and gun control. So we're taking different angles and different looks at it. Parents and gun control. All right, let's have a look. Oh, look. This is not going to be overnight, but I have a little sliver of optimism here. Only a sliver, we'll have to see. All right. Now, bang in the center, the Seven of Wands, the card of defending from the high ground. Is this the parents defending the right for their children to go to school and not have to be worried they're going to be executed? Or is this the gun lobby and all who sail in her defending? Could be a bit of both. All right. Now, underneath this, we have the Justice card, not a minute too soon, but this has to be seen as a social justice issue. It has to be seen as a public health issue. It has to be seen as a law and order issue. It's absolutely everything here. So it's not as simple as just new laws. The culture has to change, but it's going to start with some new laws that are being talked about and in fact are implemented in some of the more, dare I say, civilized states, right? So the legal stuff is hugely important. Behind this issue, this is a problem, the mercenary, because so many politicians get money one way and another through this. And also the popularity of the gun-toting states. And it's seen as a sacred cow. I understand that. At the same time, something has to move in a more civilized direction. I'm using the word civilized here because really this rampant gun violence means most Americans are being forced to live in a war zone while singing the Star-Spangled Banner. You know, it does not make sense. So the nexus, and money talks. So I'm a great believer in more actual court cases delivering painful financial results for these people. Not impossible, but it is a juggle and it is a dance. So what do you weigh up with this? Could there be some really strong, sane, sensible people? So I don't know what Amy McGrath's position, for example, as an ex-service member, or Colin Lamb, or Richard Ojete, some of these who have served in the military, they've served their country. I'm hoping they might step forward with this. I'm getting a vibe on this. Now, of course, the offer that the gun lobby doesn't want, the offer that the GOP doesn't want, the offer, the piece across the aisle, I don't think Biden should spend a nanosecond extending his arm across the aisle. I think it has to come from the grassroots up. people in Republican states, and they must be there because 70 to 90%, depending on the polls, say they do want change. So they're there. But these are the ones who don't want it. But some sort of marriage could be made between the different groups. No one is talking about taking all the guns away from every armed American. No one. No, that'd be way too radical and way too sensible, and America's a million miles from that position. But a compromised marriage could still be had. This is extremely, extremely important. This is the wheel of fortune, because to a certain extent, if people can get their heads around and their energy behind this issue, it will galvanize them for other issues. So perhaps people will realize their greatest enemy is not gay marriage or, you know, a 15-year-old who wants contraception and can't access it. Those are not the enemies. This is a turning point. In a way, Australia is a young country, America's a young country, we're teenage countries, and we both need to grow up. And growing up means looking at the tough stuff, right? Looking at what you've done wrong as well as what you've done right. This is about revisiting what America symbolizes, what America stands for, and what America will represent in the future. So it couldn't be more important. Now, just before I leave that, a Fox News reporter went rogue and actually spoke sense. How out there is that? And her name is Ethel Neville. And I'm a great fan of the Neville brothers. Oh, bless Aaron Neville. Art Neville is the father of this young woman. And she had some GOP toxic cretin on there. And she said, look, we can't just leave this to Biden. They try and then blame Biden for everything. No, we as a nation have to do this. He needs support to do this. So she actually on air said it. So bless her. Right. Now, also we mustn't forget there's been student walkouts over the leaking of the Roe versus Wade. There's been student walkouts over gun violence. So, you know, young people are engaged. Now, June 11 is going to be Gun Protest Day. So have a think, what can you do in a way that keeps you safe to participate in that, right? We've talked about it before on these channels, you know, if you physically go, make sure your phone's charged, that you go in a group, that you know where each other is. But don't forget, you can always support without being on the front line, of course. So that means you might drive other people there. There are all sorts of ways to support, online petitions, whatever you can. Okay. Now, that was the moms. Oh, did you see? There's audio and possibly video of that weird guy, Loudermilk, who's Trump's new best friend, taking people through on January 5th. I love that. Now, I'm going to have a quick look at Florida and Texas, because I think these are absolutely fascinating states. And I just read this morning the potential for green energy in the Gulf of Mexico, wind power and stuff, is enormous. They've got to get rid of these meatheads and fossil fuels. You know, it's like they've got to get rid of Abbott with cattle, guns and gas, you know. Like, how's Texas going? How's Texas going? Is there a movement here? Let's see what the movement. Oh, that's always good. Ha! Well, 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 well. Glory be and blow me down with a feather. Okay, as I've explained, we have to keep tuning into these issues because things change. At the moment, there's momentum because of the school kids, right? There is momentum as we speak. Right. But that doesn't mean it doesn't slow down, doesn't get bogged down. But I'm just talking about right now, there is absolute momentum, a demand for a fresh start. With the Fool card here, enough. These thoughts and prayers are not cutting it. We need a new approach. In fact, speaking of approaches, several, because if you don't have a multi-pronged approach, this is the Eight of Wands, you're going to keep seeing these things which will keep forcing you to look at this issue. Now, we're grown-ups on this channel. We all know if fabulous gun control legislation was introduced next Wednesday, it wouldn't be the end of violent atrocities in the land of the free, home of the brave. No, no, no. But they will start to diminish, and after a cultural change, noticeably diminish. So there's going to be more episodes. I think this is also around energy, people being held hostage in the energy crisis. If you live in Texas, if you possibly can, make sure you have your generator primed and ready if you can use that. Have alternative ways of heating and cooling. Try and do as much off-grid as you can. You might even get a little camping stove ready. There's going to be more issues that are going to cause grief. Right? And that is around energy itself and guns. Coming out, this is young people raising the sword. They are sick of it. They're sick of all of it. You know, they don't identify in terms of 10-gallon hats. They're part of a global youth movement online and everywhere else, you know. Enough. And they are coming forward, and that these sorts are ideas, inspiration, dreams, cutting through. All these things are important. Wow. So Texas is on the move. Can't say as much about Florida. What I will say, what I want to look at here, I had an email exchange this morning. You know who you are, thank you. With a woman who's been working on legislative change for veterans in Florida. And I looked up how many veterans live in Florida. 8.5 million. 8.5 million. That is a lot of veterans, and it's a lot of voters, and it's a lot of veterans who are not getting looked after particularly well. Right? Now, every country says, we do everything for our veterans, join our services, don't they? Every country does that. What happens when you need them? Not so marvelous. So it might be okay for medical care in a crisis situation and so forth, but long-term mental health issues, long-term dental issues, long-term housing issues, it all evaporates. So I want to look at veterans in Florida. Veterans in Florida, looking at these issues, veterans in Florida. Oh my God. And this woman in the email this morning was saying, you know, the GOP people she was talking to, they weren't interested. She had the figures there, how many people needed what services and all of that. They were not interested. The GOP lies And it's really quite sad because in most countries, most active service people tend to vote Conservative. Not all, not everywhere, but often. And then they're the ones who let them down, you know. So I'm going to look at the tone of veterans in Florida. They could be a big voting bloc. So if you are a veteran in Florida, or you're related to a veteran in Florida, or you live with a veteran in Florida, please have these conversations. Let's see. All right. Plans are being made. Obviously, I'm not the first person to think of this as a really important voting bloc that should be better represented than it has been, and better represented in everyday life, regardless of who's in power. Veterans deserve our best possible commitment and care and follow-up care. So the strategies are there, but it's pennies in comparison with what's needed. I'm going to say something here, correct me if I'm wrong, but if Australia and other countries are anything to go by, Veterans Affairs was designed to help returning service people, and then all money tends to go up. So people who are in administration get given huge salaries and get $400 office chairs and all this other unnecessary crap. And then there's only pennies left for the people who have given their bodies, their souls, and their commitment to the country. Pennies, which is disappointing. Disappointing. However, this is really new energy coming through here. The Ace of Swords does not mess around, right? It's known colloquially in the trade as the cutting through the BS card. It's time that this was brought to the table as a voting issue, and people will be listening and have cut through. The Queen of Cups, this is maternal energy again. It can be literally the mothers, but it doesn't have to be. It could be a woman veteran who comes forward and manages to cut through. But there's definitely female energy around this issue. Wow. I really, really, really hope so. Blessings to all vets. And as the child of a vet who spent many years in a veterans hospital every day, I have the utmost compassion for you guys. So blessings. So your job, everyone, don't forget. The hearings will be starting on the 9th. That'll give us a bit of a lift and everything. But from now on till the midterms, thinking, what can I do in my humble little world with my skills? What can I do to help the bigger cause? That's our job. Stay safe, stay sane, rise above it. Big love. Ciao.